ONS is back and it's just as big as we remember it. And Rosebank is causing some concern. That's a lot to talk about if you're just me. Aberdeen Features lead Ryan Duff, but thankfully I'm joined by news editor Erica Askland. And more importantly, you're joining me here in Stavanger.
It's been brilliant. I love Norway just so much. It's been great. What a buzz. Holy cow. And you just walk around, look at all of these major firms with all of these absolutely honking big stands, and you think, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they came back to Aberdeen, come offshore Europe? But that's maybe another thing altogether.
No, I get that, because it's such a gargantuan show, isn't it? Like,
right.
You know, we'll hear more from the show president, Leif Johan,
Yes.
later in the show, but it's really interesting, isn't it, that when you come here, I mean, just the scale of it, it's massive. What's 10 halls, all...
How long does it take you to walk from one end to the other?
Well,
I think I've done that a few times. I don't know how many steps I've got on, but
the problem
good.
is you could probably do it in a much shorter period of time, but the sheer volume of people in each hall means that it takes forever.
I know, people just stop. They're like, oh, come on, you're killing me here. I gotta get somewhere else in like 5 minutes.
I have been broken down into a silent rage a couple of times, going, just move, I need to go, I've got an appointment. But no, it's good fun. It is a lot of fun.
100%, right.
And there's been no shortage of news. There's been stuff happening left and right, and there's been some really interesting comments. This morning I was listening to something from Michael Shanks and some of the sort of world leaders in industry and government.
So you're world leaders and Michael Shanks.
I was trying to be nice to our energy minister, but I think even he would take that. And it was interesting because they were speaking about the energy transition and how do we bring people along and how do we ensure that people are buying into this. And there were some really interesting talks about sort of the growing use of electricity and how do we meet that demand. And there were speakers from India that were saying, well, we currently 70% of our country's energy comes from coal. We're needing to double the amount of electricity we produce, but while we're doing that, we're reducing the coal reserves to 50% of our electricity use. So it's not doubling with us. It's relatively scaling back. So that's quite interesting.
Well, on that kind of topic, I was at the opening plenary. That's the one with the big security and the
if your
big
name's
speakers.
Not down, you're not coming in.
I know, yeah. I got a special invitation. It was, that's just how I roll. But of course, Fatih Birol, who's, he's almost as cheerful as his name sounds. He's a lovely guy. He's the executive director of the International Energy Agency. Now, he's a big advocate of the energy transition. I mean, he's weighed in on, new North Sea fields. He kind of wants to keep oil and gas in the ground, which is very interesting. But he is also quite a pragmatic person because he's looking at the data. So he was talking about how, we're 100% on this way to electrification. However, what he's seeing is that people are now considering energy production from just in time to just in case. He's seeing growth in renewables to provide electricity from renewables, nuclear, but also coal. This is around the global industry. Now, he said that there are 3 things driving electrification. Now, what do you think those 3 things are?
Right. Well, I've set myself up for failure here because we were just about to talk about this before we came on camera, and I said, don't tell me because quiz me on camera, and now I'm feeling like, I probably shouldn't have said that. I said data centers, and you said that was correct, but that's only the second.
It's the second biggest driver, and there's been a lot of chat about data centers here while we've been here. But the biggest driver of electrification is air conditioning.
Air conditioning, of
Hotter
course.
world, we're going to need to stay cooler.
Do you know what? We really should have invited our colleague from London, Ed Reed, along, because I'm sure he has told the podcast many a time over the past couple of months about how he's desperate for air conditioning. So doesn't surprise
everyone's getting
me.
some. Everyone's getting some.
Well, that's actually what they talk about, sort of world leaders and sort of bring industry leaders and bringing the energy transition along with people. They were also speaking about India rolling out air conditioning units, but it was really interesting, the conversation. Like Michael Shanks, we said that he was in that talk, and he made a point that I think is often sadly missed out in the debate with the energy transition, or the discussion. I'm not going to say the debate, because essentially we often get these kind of signals from political parties. Political parties have to work in 4-year terms, 5-year terms. They need to sort of keep people on side with their plans. And when you have a position like the Labour government that are looking well ahead to our energy transition and looking to decarbonise and working on long-scale projects, they often need to kind of present that as something that's going to fix an issue that's happening right now, which we know these projects aren't going to fix anything right this second. But he was very open and honest about how this isn't going to fix things right now. It's not going to immediately impact people. This is an investment for the future. And he spoke about how in politics often we overpay for the short term but underpay in the long term, and that's very interesting. And it was something I was having a chat with a fellow Aberdonian about one of the drinks. One of the drinks receptions this week, and I described it as the energy transition's like your mortgage, and what I mean by that is you don't complain about paying the deposit at the start because you're going to own the house. And the same idea, we have to invest in the grid and the infrastructure and the manufacturing capability and the skills now. And then down the line, once we are largely decoupled from international markets and so on and so forth, that's when we can get the advantage of job creation, increased tax revenue from those jobs, and of course, cheaper bills. But it's a long way out, and it's an honest conversation we have to be having.
Well, you know what? I found it kind of felt like, the overarching, is about electrification and, kind of building out towards that. And, that's the energy system. Ursula von der Leyen, highlighted that when she gave her speech at in a pre-record at the, what Europe is doing now at this event. But it also kind of feels like, some of the oil and gas companies are just saying, guess what? We do oil and gas. Like there's almost a little less apologetic this time. It just feels like just because, you have demand, coming, and the notion that gas is security, and that's going to be important. So we had Wael Sawan, chief executive of Shell, and he kind of just unapologetically spoke and said, we had been pursuing renewables, but we're not anymore because we didn't find it to be a very sensible return on investment.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Patrick Pouyanné, who's the chief executive of Total Energies,
I don't know if you
said,
can see the stand
is he
that's
here?
behind
Yeah.
us.
Big stand.
I mean, that
Big
was maybe a slight diss on Patrick Pouyanné if you think we can see him on the show floor from here, but we can see his stand.
He's not hanging out. He's not hanging out with the peons on the stand, that's for sure. But, he said something interesting. He said that, his staff would crucify him if he stepped back from the push towards renewables and electrification. However, they are still only targeting 20% of their business will be in electrification by the time 2030. So that's like 80% is still oil and gas. So, and of course, there's still a major shareholder in the North Sea through Neonext.
No, it's very interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned that, Norway's still going for it. And after the break, we'll be discussing that a little bit more. But,
Indeed.
But just the vibe here is quite different, isn't it? I don't want to talk down my native Aberdeen. I love my home, and I love Offshore Europe. It's a great time, and it's good fun. It's a great show, but there is a difference here, isn't there? I don't know if it's the community engagement, if it's just a cultural difference between Norway and Scotland, or what it is, but it feels like this show, like when this show's here, people welcome it more. And you know, we've had protests, of course, and people are well within their right to protest. They didn't get naked like they did in
I know,
2024.
a little bit disappointing.
But they did sort of like smear blood on their face and or like, well, it was oil, and they were sort of making on that they were vampires, and it was. But we still had that. Of course, but when you go downtown Stavanger and you see the parties that are happening around the harbour, and when you're, you know, sort of interacting with people, there is a real buzz that this show is important to the town, and people are happy to support it, and that does feel like a cultural divide.
There's a very big global presence here as well, which maybe would have been at Offshore Europe, you know, the sister show to this event, which happens in the North Sea. You know, because there's a discussion going on here about global energy production and global trends that, you know, one of the things I've also found being here is, you know, this slight, there's been people kind of going, oh, sorry, dear, just because like the North Sea is no longer, you know, focused on, you know, the energy industry and energy production. It's people are feeling a bit sad for us, really, because, you know, we're not the place that we have been preeminently in the energy system, and I think there's that's been reflected here.
Yeah, I think people do definitely have that. I spoke to someone in the data center game actually just before I was while I was waiting for a conversation, before I was waiting for one of the panel sessions to start, and that was very much it. It was a case of, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, well, I'm a journalist. I'm based out of Aberdeen. I told them the publication primarily focuses on upstream energy with a focus on the UK, but we do look more broadly, hence why we're here. But you know, it's like mainly UK, and being Aberdeen based, traditionally I've covered more oil and gas than renewables, but there is a healthy mix. And he went, yeah, you're not really doing much oil and gas now, are you? It's like, you know, this man didn't really have a background in energy per se. He was part of a data center startup, and even he was calling that out. But let's find out what the man who made this show happen had to say, because I was speaking to Leif Johan, the president of ONS, and the former mayor of Stavanger, so he's very much a hometown hero. Or, well, I guess not every mayor leaves office on popular terms, but from my understanding, he's very well liked in town. So let's find out what he had to say, because this show felt big, but was it as big as we think? So Leif Johan, we're here on the final day of ONS. How have you found the show?
Fantastic. Words, it's not easy. I'm just touched. We have had some days which has been much more than we could expect. Quite close to 70,000 people being at ONS altogether. We had a concert yesterday, downtown yesterday, with more than 30,000 people, I assume. The exhibition worked very well. All the conferences, we have had maybe 1,300 different speakers coming in. It's an energy university. So we have been discussing really important issues, showing courage. We have an open mind with the discussions about the world in the future. How would it work? Which kind of energy do we need? How much energy do we need? And how could we actually discover and develop that technology? So the feedback is excellent.
And you're obviously going to be thinking ahead to 2028. Next week, we're not going to force you to think about that just yet, but what we're thinking about is Offshore Europe, the sister show to ONS, happening in my hometown of Aberdeen next year. The Aberdonians that have been here in Stavanger have been asking, how do we take a little bit of the ONS magic we've felt this week back to Aberdeen? I want to know your input. How do you get the local community on board through that ONS Plus exhibit on the harbour front, get people into that concert and get the local people of Stavanger talking about the energy industry?
I'm quite sure that the Aberdonians are ready to give that answer themselves. They know actually how things work, and it's not so easy for me, but just one key word, just to innovate. Whatever you're doing, you should always innovate. You should think in a different way. You should expand the way of working, sit down, plan, and actually have dreams and say that whatever you would like to do is possible. So just have a vision and do it.
And will I see you in the Granite City next year?
Yes, I've been to Offshore Europe every time since I'm getting old, you know, so it's many years since I started traveling, and I will be there for sure. I'm quite often in Aberdeen, and I love to be in Aberdeen. We are so close to each other. We have so much in common, and we need to work. We have one common North Sea. You know, the oil, gas, they don't know if that's on the UK side or the Norwegian side. Technology is the same, so we just need to work together. And there's still plenty of opportunities. I came first time to the Gulf of Mexico in early 90s. People told me that this is gone, nothing will happen here anymore. That's some decades since, and it's been working since, much more than ever. So if you just, as I said, innovate, start working, plan in a different way, connect with the politicians, get them on the side for the industry, which is never easy, I know, but need to work with it. So there will be possibilities there as well.
And you would know all about the interactions between government and industry. You, of course, being the former mayor of Stavanger, the town we're in. How is it when industry is coming and saying, we need these changes, we need this support? How easy is it for government to get on side?
For us, when I was a politician, the politician said, what about the industry? We don't see it, we don't meet it, where are they? Then I come to the industry and they said, where are the politicians? We don't see them, we don't meet them. And we said, let's bring them together. So we have energy society, where the energy industry meets the society. And we are working with that here at the exhibition, plenty of presentations at the conference, being at that point, and the same what you do with ONS Plus. And I think that's an important thing. Find meeting places, explore meeting places, create meeting places, and follow up. And just sit down on a neutral basis. Offshore Europe could be a neutral basis. You could have other venues, I don't know that. But find places, not a political area or an industrial arena, but just find places which is neutral, sit down, discuss, and find common solutions.
Now, last time we attended ONS, you described it as the best ONS ever. It was about 71,000 people showed up. We're sitting at around 68, I think is the working number right now. Is ONS much like the Norwegian continental shelf fighting a decline, or is it managing to ramp up what's going on?
It's never ending, and we are growing. And this, I think this year's edition has been even better than the last one. Not necessarily in number, but in content. The discussions we have had, courage as a team has worked perfectly. And this morning I went through all the teams for ONS since the early beginning. And I think it's so good what we have done. We started with that in 2014, one word only, because it's so easy to focus. Not a long sentence, not blah, 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 but just one word, find that, and that's what we are working with. We said courage, which is needed in all parts of what we are doing. We have used it on the conferences, on the exhibition. If you're selling bolts, you could use courage, because you need courage to develop, to go further with your products, etc., etc. So I think that's something which we have succeeded extremely good with this time, and we are already working with a team for 2028.
Well, you're going to have to give us an insight. What's the theme next time then? What's the word that can top courage?
We need to relax a bit, to think something. We had a lot of alternatives last time which we didn't use. Maybe we're going to see some of them. Maybe we're going to find something new. Maybe some of the listeners here have suggestions. So please email me. It's easy, and we follow up.
There we go. Well, what a message to end on. Thank you very much, Leif Johan.
Thank you for being here. And all the best, all the Aberdonians which have been here, and which also I will meet in Offshore Europe. A lot of dear friends which I have met for many, many years.
Glad to hear it. And thank you very much for listening. Stick around, because after this break, we're going to be speaking about some of the announcements made right here in Stavanger. With ONS's sister show Offshore Europe just a year away, we spoke to event organisers RX in this special sponsored segment.
There's a lot of the big operators are changing, you know, and the landscape's changing, and we respect that. So we're very much in conversation. And for example, our executive committee across the main conference is extremely well attended, and we have a very, very high caliber list of companies already engaging at that level. But I think it's really important that we involve them in the show, not just in a physical stand capacity, but it can be via sponsorship, it can be via the technical sessions. There's a number of ways we will be engaging with those operators.
So we touched on the North Sea at the end of our discussion at the end of the first half of the programme, but we really need to get into it now, because on day one, kicking off the show, you kicked off with a bang. You managed to doorstep Anders Opedal. Is he the man at the show? We spoke to Leif Johan, he's the man that made it happen, but everyone loves Equinor here, right? They're the state-owned company. Let's face it, they're paying a lot of the supply chain companies here, a lot of the companies in the oil and gas game in Norway, in CCS and wind as well, are doing business with Equinor. What was the head honcho saying?
Right. So I didn't even have to doorstep Anders Opedal. In fact, he had a press conference here, and then I just waited patiently for a chance to chat with him. And then, of course, I was very handily supported by our fabulous AV guy, Callum, who came to the rescue, and we captured it. It was really good. You'll hear it and see it in a little bit. Last time we were here, I'd asked him in the press conference what's going on with Rosebank, because at the time
it was his baby.
Rosebank, it represented one of their most significant investments in the UKCS. I think they were looking at about $4 billion or something that they were spending on it, I seem to remember, and they were saying that it's going to be jobs and whatnot. But at the time, it was getting caught up in, kind of regulatory issues, legal issues, and then, of course, the big sad story. We all know that, the EPL, forces Equinor and Shell to decide to merge their assets together, and then the courts come in and go quash those licenses, and there's been up in the air ever since. And so he seemed more interested in talking to the UK and through Energy Voice. So I just asked him, and so basically he just gave it straight down the line. He said he wanted more certainty. Why should companies like him or companies that he runs like Equinor be committed to making billion-dollar investments that need time, that need to extend beyond political cycles, and that if they, his point was if you're going to give something a license, you should stick to it. Of course, he mentioned that maybe their wind investments in the U.S. have had the same sort of issue. Trump has tried to fight those off. Of course, they've taken the U.S. government to court, and they're fighting that to court. Could they be fighting the UK in court if they don't get a chance to go ahead? I mean, this is the question. I didn't ask.
No, but it's an interesting point to make, right? Because they have taken the Trump administration to court after the Biden administration handed out a license for the Empire Wind project, and then that was revoked because, as we all know, Trump hates windmills.
He really
but
does.
Then again, someone should probably tell them that Equinor's project isn't going to mill anything. They're turbines. They generate electricity. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just getting petty. But I think, so essentially, they've taken them to court, and they're looking to get that overturned. They're looking to deliver on Empire Wind. Yeah. We've reported, or you've reported in the past, that that Rosebank, if Rosebank doesn't go ahead, Equinor could feasibly sue. They have already invested, bearing in mind the High Court ruling that overturned the government's decision to approve environmental impact assessments relating to Equinor's Rosebank and Jackdaw from Shell. The court said that they could continue pre-production work, so they've still been doing all the pre-production stuff. It's ready to go. It's just drill needs to meet ground, and then they're off to the races, right? So if they've been told, just get on with that while we're making the decision, that's a serious investment to have made.
Well, I mean, I remember when I was, before I came, some of the gossip, we get 50%, UK gets 50% of its gas from Norway, basically, remember. And of course, gas is important, to the UK power system. 85% of households rely on gas for their heating and for turning on your ovens and cookers and stuff like that. So, and that's, changing slowly. But in the meantime, we still need a lot of gas. And I remember someone who will remain nameless said, well, now that Ed Miliband's the foreign secretary, is he going to go to Norway and say, sorry, I'm cancelling your Rosebank investment, but I still need your gas? Now, Anders Opedal was very firm on that one. He said he will be more than happy to provide gas to the UK because guess what? They sell gas for a living and they do very well out of it. So that was really good. The question, though, too, is, speaking subsequently to Philip Matthew, who's Equinor's head of international.
He's pretty much head of anything but Norway.
It's
like there's the Norway bit because they've got a lot here, and then the rest of the world.
Honestly, like they're going clappers in the Norwegian North Sea. They're doubling down on it. We'll talk a little bit about the joint venture that they're going to be doing. But, they're also doing a lot of stuff, internationally. He was saying that they're looking at Brazil, particularly after BP, discovered Boomerangi. Like, that was amazing. And so they've got, like, a total kind of aim there. They've got an oil and a gas field already there. But Philip Matthew was saying that, they are looking for, they will invest in their UK North Sea asset, Adura, which is, of course, a joint venture that owns all of their assets. So that's not, in addition to Rosebank, and as well as the assets that they own that come through the Shell joint venture, there was the Mariner field, and that's been producing for a long time, bit heavy oil, I think. But they said that there's opportunity for investments under the existing regime. However, this requires, this will rely on the signals that they're getting from, guess who? UK government. You can have them invest in under your terms. However, they probably won't if, they get told to kind of like stuff it.
No, of course. I mean, if you've invested all that and then all of a sudden a project's pulled out from under you, it does make it more difficult. We saw that with Chevron and Venezuela earlier in the year, right? Again, going back to Trump, he had to go at Chevron and kick them out of the room when he had that big meeting with all the oil execs. It said that they were playing too cute. I remember that, or how he said that. But it was essentially, they'd said the same thing. We've tried to enter Venezuela, I believe it was 3 times before, or twice. Once, 3 or 4 times.
You get burned. You know what? You don't want to go there. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've tried. We've been thrown out a couple of times.
Well, funny enough,
Never
speaking
happened.
of another unashamed oil and gas company, I went and had a wee listen to what Harbour Energy was saying, because for what they're thinking of, they were a UK North Sea play until they got fed up with the UK. And now they're saying that Norway is their home country. Norway is their biggest base for production. Norway is, kind of where it matters. Norway is where they have like 3 or 4 fields due for sanctioning this year.
That's
crazy.
very interesting. It's interesting, especially considering Harbour Energy, according to the latest production figures, which are admittedly are from 2025, tells us that they're still the second largest producer in the UK, even after Adura and the ONS and all that. But anyway, we're getting very far away from the original point of this, which is Rosebank. So let's hear what you and Anders had to say earlier this week.
Anders Opedal, thank you so much for having us here. Congratulations on such great figures that you were able to present to us. But please, can you tell us what happens if the UK government does not sanction Rosebank? We are waiting for it now, and you must be waiting with a lot of anticipation. What happens if it doesn't go ahead?
First of all, this is handled by our kind of joint venture with Equinor and Shell, Adura, and we have a great team there that is working on this issue on every day. I think we entered into the field development of Rosebank as Equinor with our partner and actually got the approval. This is something about predictability. If you want to be an investor in a country, you should expect that the government can give you predictable regulatory framework for your investments. I've seen that Rosebank has always been an existing field, existing discovery. It's not a new discovery. And as far as I have been able to read the manifesto for the Labour Party, this is within their policy. But this will be now handled by Adura, and for us, we will see what happens.
will it change your attitude towards the UK, which is a big buyer of oil and gas from Equinor, if somehow your investment falters there?
We have provided oil and gas to UK for decades. We will continue to do so. Our strategy is to provide reliable energy to our customers, and that is always our first priority. So we will continue to do so. We see in several countries now that when you make an investment and get approval for your investments, there are changing view of it. We have seen it here in Norway on the Hammerfest LNG. We have seen it with the Empire Wind, offshore wind development in US, and also that a lease that were granted in the UK has been, needs to be environmental impact assessment need to be redone. And this is difficult for big investors, investing billions of dollars into the energy systems, and then have a different view after an elections and so on. So what I advocate, and I also advocated that when Keir Starmer had his first investment summit just after his election, and I said, what we need now is to have stability, predictability, because when you invest billions of dollars, creating jobs and ripple effects, that's really needed, because it raises the bar for future investments if we don't see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you have the same message for new Prime Minister Andy Burnham, because there's been so much change in the UK?
Well, this is my message to all politicians in all countries, actually. I feel it's a little bit boring to say this every time I meet them and so on, but it's actually the foundation for trust, that we can trust that we make an investment, nothing changes, because as I normally say, is that it takes us one election cycle to plan a project, another election cycle to execute on the project, and 3 to 5 election cycles to actually earn back the money that we have invested, and continue investing in upgrades and so on. So in all, between 6 to 10 election cycles, we need stability and predictability. I fully understand there are different views on energy and different technologies for energy and so on. I'm fine with that, but as soon as something is actually approved, then I think it's not the time for changing their mind.
So we spoke a lot about the UK before we were speaking to Anders there, but here it's very different. We're speaking about uncertainty and projects not happening in the UK and so on and so forth. Regular listeners will have probably heard that before. Yeah. But Norway is going ahead. You mentioned Harbour Energy, got a good few fields here that are ready to go. They're ready to sort of run away with those. However, the week really kicked off here at ONS with a major announcement for the Norwegian oil and gas sector. That was Vår Energy, Aker BP, and Equinor, the 3 largest producers in the basin here, are essentially saying, we're going to clump together. So we're going to do our subsea tiebacks and our near field exploration on our own. That's the type of stuff that we can finance ourselves, and it doesn't matter. But the big projects, new fields that you might have a joint venture partnership in, or so on and so forth, and you're ready to take FID, but your partner isn't. You're kind of humming and haying. You're waiting for it to happen. Well, this is what this new partnership's going to do. The 3 of them, between the 3 of them, so at least one of the other companies, if not both of them, will jump in and say, well, we'll join you, we'll help, we'll get the field going. So what they're saying is they're targeting high impact wells.
They're collaborating, isn't that nice?
They're collaborating, like the takeaway
absolutely.
from every panel session ever. But that's the thing, they are genuinely collaborating. And so I was listening to this and I was thinking, well, hold on a minute, this sounds a little bit familiar. Because we're clumping together to make sure that we can deliver assets, by sort of sharing the cost and sort of dividing it across different companies. did feel a little bit familiar coming from Aberdeen, coming from the UK, because it's kind of what's been happening back home, but admittedly with independent joint ventures. Adura is Equinor and Shell going, we'll split the cost of any investment we're doing in the North Sea by dividing it between the two of us. You know, Total Energies joined Neonex Plus with Repsol's UK business in Neo Energy, owned by Norwegian private equity firm High Tech Vision. So, you know, we had that. So I caught up with Vår Energy's CEO, Nick Walker, to ask him, is it the same as the UK? Or are you kind of just going in the same direction, but kind of calling it something different to make it sound more positive? This is what he had to say.
I think the three companies are very committed to Norway. You can see it in the activity levels. As a company, we've increased our production 2.5 times in the last 5 years. We're now one of the largest producers in Europe, and with our recent acquisition in Denmark, we'll be at 450,000 barrels a day. We want to sustain that long term. And the whole key to this is about exploring for the bigger opportunities in Norway. We have a lot of smaller opportunities, and we have a whole pipeline of things which will keep us producing till the mid-2030s. But if we want to go beyond there and sustain production, then we need to look at the bigger, higher impact opportunities. And this initiative is focused on making those happen. And the challenge has been is that the three companies, we take licenses with other parties, and then we don't make it with a commitment, and then we come to try and get things drilled, and we can't get alignment. So the three of us have come together and said, we want to make this happen. We're going to make commitments to drill wells, and we're going to put a program in place to drill this over a period of time. And so I think the difference is you'll see a commitment to make it happen, and you'll see momentum, and then that will hopefully we'll have the success that comes from this and create value long term.
So what level of cash commitments coming from VAR for this then?
So we commit around, this year our guidance is $250 to $300 million of net exploration commitment. And what I say is that our exploration budget or strategy is 80% to near field infrastructure-led opportunities, and then 20% to high impact opportunities. The challenge has been is that we've struggled to fill the 20% with high impact opportunities because we can't get the alignment. And so going forward, this initiative will cover that part of the budget. And it may mean that we lift the budget a bit over time, but I'm not going to guide that today.
So here we are. We've come to the end.
That's it. And do you know what? I'm looking behind us, and not to shout out another media organisation, but there have been live broadcasts happening on the show floor right behind us, and I'm seeing them tear down their stand just now as well.
Is it nearly beer o'clock then? Is that what we're saying?
I think it's about beer o'clock.
Or all o'clock, as they call it here in Norway.
It is indeed. And you know what? It's a well-earned old as well, isn't it? So thank you, Erica, for joining me. And thank you very much for listening. If you weren't here at the show floor at ONS this year, well, first of all, why? Come back next time, because it was a lot of fun. But I hope we've kept you up to date both here and on energyvoice.com. As always, if you wanted to be hearing these stories as and when they came out and you didn't want to wait till Friday, well, you could have subscribed to our newsletter and you could have got these stories 8:30 in your inbox every morning. But that does it for us from Stavanger. So I'm way to run to the pub. Thank you very much.